Before this video begins, I'd just like to let everyone know that the Persona 5 trailer is out, and if you haven't seen it, well, oh, buddy, you might as well go watch it now, because, oh man.
Anyhow, picking up from where we left off, Arctave was in the shadow of the shadow thing. It was blotted out the sun, and there's a big hand spider thing that she's facing off against with big green eyes. So this is chapter 7, by the way. I haven't exactly said when the chapters are, but I guess I should start. Anyway, chapter 7. The eyes suddenly rushed forward with a swish. Arc couldn't react fast enough and was quickly smashed against the ground by the fist. She got up and looked around, trying to find the location of the eyes, but they were nowhere to be found. There was a rumbling from the ground. At first, Arc thought it was just an earthquake, but then realized that there was something moving underneath the ground. She scanned the area for something to defend herself with, but there was nothing. The giant fist sprang out of the ground and spat a huge cloud of lava into the sky. The shadow overhead caught the lava and began to decode the formula and multiply the lava in massive numbers. Arc stood and watched in terror while the shadow flung the clots back down to earth. Arc then darted in the direction she came from, not caring about reaching the objective anymore. Fireballs fell to the ground in a meteor shower. Arc stopped at the side of the crater that the shadow was still emitting from, like a trunk to a tree. The shadow was being sourced into the sky by this one ray of darkness. Arc jumped into it and was abducted into the sky overhead, the fist being left behind. Arc then found herself in a brightly lit area of endless blue, the footing being the shadow's canopy. This, however, gave the shadow an advantage, and he grabbed Arc's legs and relentlessly pounded her against the dark footing. Arc screeched out in pain, but just as she did, the shadow quivered and crippled into a dust, then returned to normal form. Did I do that? Arc wondered. She screeched again, and the shadow turned into dust once more. She also heard groans from below. She assumed that this was the fist. So, if I roar, the creatures die? This might be an advantage. Arc then screeched again, but this time jumped back down to the ground. The fist caught sight of her again and rushed forward. Arc ran against it and screeched directly into its eyes. The sky lit up, revealing the location of the fist. Arc jumped and stabbed 3 of her arms into the ant's eyes. Or the ant arms into the fist's eye. Man, I'm not reading this too well today. The fist roared in pain and fell backwards. Arc ran back to the fist's tail, quote, quote, and grabbed it. She flung the fist high into the sky, jumped back into the ray of darkness again, and when she got up top, she saw the fist falling. She screeched again. Just as the fist rushed to the shadow's dust, the shadow materialized again, and the fist was stuck in the shadow's grasp. If that makes sense. I mean, that all kind of happened really fast, so I don't know if... Anyway. Arc sprinted towards it and jabbed its eyes again. Juices squirted out of the fist's eyes, and it just hung there. Arc knew this meant it was defeated, but now there was the shadow to take care of. Chapter 8. Meanwhile, Wyatt wandered down the path that he stumbled upon a few hours earlier. Thus far, he has seen many bizarre things. Camels, lizards, jaguars, and floating sharks for the win. He was getting quite frightened by some of these things, but he saw a cat on the way, and it was now sitting in his arms. He decided to call the small creature Fuzz. Wyatt and Fuzz continued down the pathway, slightly tall grass on either side of them. Now you may be wondering, how can Wyatt hold Fuzz if everything he touches disintegrates? Well, the reason Fuzz isn't perishing a quick death is because he isn't sad or depressed while he is with Fuzz. He feels safe and warm. They continued down the path, and they walked and walked and walked and they walked. They walked for a long while until they came to a hut in the middle of the path. And since Wyatt didn't feel like going into the grass, he went inside the hut. Inside the hut... So there's a hut. I just don't feel like going around it. Inside the hut, an elderly man in a robe sat in a chair by a fireplace. Wyatt approached him, and the man was snoring silently. Wyatt crept past him and towards the back door. As soon as Wyatt placed his hand on the handle, the old man sprang from his chair. He rushed towards Wyatt and slipped a double-barrel shotgun from his sleeve into his hand. He aimed quickly at Wyatt's head. "What do you think you're doing, boy?" Wyatt just stared and managed the words, I was just passing through." "You don't do things like that around here, boy," the man instantly replied. "But my home is gone, and it's all my fault. All those people." "Is that what all them folk been talking about down in the Ville?" I guess so." "Satan! Only Satan could pull off such a feat, boy!" "Look, boy, it doesn't matter. What's important is, you're the spawn of Satan, and you gotta die." "Die? But why?" The man smacked his forehead with his hand and replied, "Son, if you don't even know what or who Satan is, then you obviously ain't him." "Well, that's good, I guess." "Well, on your sake, it's very good, 'cause that means you don't get your brains blown out by old Boomstick here." "Ah, well, then I suppose that is wonderful." "Indeed. Now, what happened to your town, you say?" "Oh, it's gone. Because of me." God damn it. "Oh, I see. So you must be Wyatt, right?" He just instantly knows. Yeah, I am." "Hot damn! You've come a long way for someone put through your tension, boy." Thanks. All I have with me here is fuzz." "Fuzz? What's that?" Wyatt simply pointed at his hands. The man's eyes grew in shock. "I didn't even see that little feller. I've been looking for him for weeks." "So he's yours?" "Indeed he is, boy, but you can have him. I don't really like going through the trouble of taking care of him anyways." Wyatt then grew a happy face. But the two soon began to get to learn a bit about each other. They trotted along the pathway behind the hut that led to the village. Their conversation drifted from strange topics to strange topics at some points. See, I just don't know why I just decided to throw this in here. "So, boy, you a virgin? 'Cause if you are, you could lose your virginity in this town with those looks." Wyatt looked around awkwardly and blushed, even though he knew probably no one would want to make love to him with his strange powers. All in all, they eventually made it down. That's so... Why would I even include that? And they're walking down to the village, and, he asked him if he was a virgin or not, and he said no. Anyway, all in all, they eventually made it down to the village, and to Wyatt's surprise, everyone welcomed him with a smile. All except this group of slightly thug-looking kids. Wyatt knew that maybe this was his chance to be normal for his life. But oh boy, was he wrong. Chapter 9. Back in the desert, Ark and the Shadow raged on in the struggle for the ages. Ark was beginning to become quite exhausted. Little did she know that yet another adversary was on its way. Far, far away was what people call Chuck Norris. And he was dashing with incredible speed towards the area. Ark looked to her right briefly because the Shadow was trying to bring up a tentacle behind her, and saw a giant shockwave of sand flying backwards, and a bearded, muscular man in front of it. Ark had never seen such an awe-inspiring figure in her life. The man rushed towards her, and landed a fast, hard fist to her face. Ark went flying in a spiral backwards and into the ground. Chuck laughed with triumph. Ark lifted her head off the ground. "What the hell?" Chuck saw her struggling to get up, and almost like lightning, appeared in front of her, and kicked her in the stomach. Ark fell to the ground and started coughing up blood. She tried to get a glimpse at the man's face, but he had already helped her with that, by grabbing her arm with one hand and staring her straight in the eye. Ark was barely breathing when he tossed her onto the ground. Ark was still conscious, because her species was born with a survivalist initiative to always be conscious in dangerous situations. Now, she's getting the shit beat out of her, but she's not going to pass out because, well, she has powers. Situations. Lost my place. Dangerous situations. She dragged herself up and looked at him, startled. "Jesus, don't you ever just die?" exclaimed Chuck. I never actually watched a movie with Chuck Norris in it, so I don't really know what he sounds like. Chuck teleported in front of her again and tripped her, so he fell on her stomach again. Chuck tried to smash her skull with his foot, but to his surprise, it wasn't Ark there. It was a dismembered robot's head instead. You're not the only one who can move quickly, Ark said powerfully, and jabbed an arm into his chest. Chuck staggered backwards, but quickly recovered and uppercutted Ark in the chin. Ark went flying upwards, but regained her balance in midair, and shot herself back down with a shockwave into the ground. Chuck slid backwards a bit, but still managed to stay balanced. The Shadow saw where this was going, so he played Painkiller by Judas Priest on his Shadow guitar. Faster than a bullet, Chuck dashed forward to... Oh, fuck me. Faster than a bullet, Chuck dashed towards Ark and landed a fist right in her gut. Ark flew backwards once more, but stopped herself with her many legs. She skidded along the ground and stopped slowly, then jumped high into the air and smashed into the ground, creating another shockwave, sending Chuck backwards. Ark flew forward as soon as she hit the ground and punched Chuck right across the face at full force. Chuck fell backwards a bit, but caught himself, and kicked Ark in the groin right as she flew by. Ark went soaring upwards and past the shadow ceiling. Above, where there was light, Ark saw the wounds on her body, and she wasn't looking too good. She knew that Chuck was a powerful person, but how would she overcome him? As she fell back to the ground, Chuck was roasting a marshmallow. Chuck seemed annoyed when he saw that Ark was still alive, so he threw his marshmallow stick at her, and penetrated her arm. She screeched in pain. Chuck looked surprised, but nothing happened to him. Ark was now terrified and falling fast. Chuck ran towards the landing area, and as soon as Ark hit the ground, he roundhouse kicked her across the landscape. Ark rocketed far and landed with an obvious pound. She raised a hand and reached out to the sky for help. Chuck saw this movement and was apparently irritated. He walked slowly over towards her. All hope seemed lost, when a figure came flying in from above Ark and threw its body at Chuck Norris. Chuck fell to his knees and was shocked. The figure was a small titanium body with wires sticking out and a sparking leg, half a head, and a huge dent in its back. Ark shouted, "Jace! You came back! Please, save me!" Jace, the robot, understood and thrashed its arms violently into Chuck's head. Chuck seemed untouched and grabbed the small robot by its torso and attempted to crush it with one hand, but Jace's spark started a flame on Chuck's arm. Chuck threw Jason to the ground and attempted to put out the flame. While Chuck was trying to put out the flame, Jace flew upwards and latched onto Chuck's head. Jace's wires became mobile, and they were pushing their ways into Chuck's eye sockets. Chuck screamed in pain and fell on the ground, dead. Ark stumbled up to see what was happening. Jace's face was morphing back to normal, and his leg was growing back. Jace roundhouse kicked the air, and Ark knew that Jace had hacked into Chuck's memory banks and stolen his data for his moves. While he was not as powerful as Chuck, he still had gained his limbacks, and Ark was happy about that. Ark ran forward and hugged him, and said, "Thank you so much!" Jace responded, "I was only doing my job, miss." The two got up and walked out of the shadowed area. I mean, after all, there was no point in trying to kill it. It was too absorbed in its guitar solo to not even notice them escaping. Back at the village, Chapter 11, Wyatt and the old man, and his name is Cyrax. He needs a name. Yeah, Wyatt and the old man, he needs a name, right? I'll call him Jerry. Wait, no, let's call him Cyrax. Yes, that sounds cooler. We're walking through the town getting to know everyone. John the blacksmith, Brooke the element master, Grant the wiseman, Matt the nationhood sunflower. Cyrax had introduced Wyatt to most everyone, except for a select group of local thugs. You remember those guys? So, does this town seem like a better place to live, boy? Well, it's definitely better than my old town, but I think I need to avenge my fallen ones with what started this all, replied Wyatt. What you mean? Asked Cyrax. Well, you know who the seductive witch is, right? Oh, don't mention here, boy! Why? This town is formed from everyone whose family members, one way or another, got killed by it. Oh, well, I'll fit in perfectly then. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. It's fine, but apparently you know who she is. She killed my dad. I see. And you want to get back, huh? Well, yeah. I want to live like a normal person again. Well, you need a lot of training before you go fight her, boy. She's not one to be easily taken out, you know. Well, yeah, but do you know anyone who can train my powers? Cyrax stared into the distance. Exactly, Wyatt said. Well, guess you'll have to learn how to use and control them yourself, 'cause you're gonna die if you try and go in with what you know. Well, I guess you're right. I'll be out in the field if you need me. Without giving Cyrax any time to respond, Wyatt walked out to the fields and began his training immediately. Cyrax sat at the only bar in town, and had a drink wondering if he should try to help Wyatt train or not. Believe it or not, Cyrax's entire family was destroyed by the might of the seductive witch. So, Cyrax wanted to get back at her also. Cyrax sat there thinking about it, and decided that he should help him train, and go with him to the witch's castle. He walked outside and heard a woman scream. Then, heard another woman shriek, "What is that thing?" Cyrax walked to the sound of the screams and saw an ant-like humanoid walking towards the fields. Cyrax thought this might be one of the witch's minions, so he assumed that it was after Wyatt, especially since it was going towards the fields. Chapter 12. Wyatt sat there, on a large rock in the fields, trying to make himself angry by slapping himself. This wasn't working, and Wyatt was getting bored of sitting there anyway. He looked up for a second and saw 3 shady figures in the distance approaching him. He tried to get a better look at them, and he noticed that it was those 3 thugs from before. Wyatt wondered what they could possibly want. When they got up to the top of the hill, they questioned. "So, you think you can just come in here and destroy our town too, huh, punk?" Wyatt stared, but didn't reply. The main thug frowned. "Okay, yeah, don't say anything, sure, but we're here to teach you a lesson." A slightly skinny, yet big-boned thug added, "Yeah, a lesson, see?" Wyatt stared more. The main thug slapped Wyatt across the face, but he just continued to stare. All the thugs gathered around Wyatt, and he didn't say or do anything. He just stood still. "What's the matter, bitch? Can't fight back?" assumed the main thug. Wyatt looked at him and smashed his own head into his. The thug fell backwards. The other 2, less authoritative-looking thugs, almost instantly shoved Wyatt onto the grass. Wyatt got up without saying anything and just continued to stare. "This kid is full of it. I think he couldn't even destroy a fly, let alone an entire village." The other thugs laughed. "Kinda weird how you stare at me all the time, kid. Are you, like, gay or something?" The thugs laughed again. Wyatt stared. "Alright, seriously though, stop staring, man, it's creepy." But Wyatt continued to stare. "Alright, that's it, let's kill this punk!" The thugs closed in on him, and when they heard a hiss from behind him, they assumed it was a snake. "Get away from my target, you little shits! I've had enough of this fucking planet!" shouted Ark from behind the thugs. The thugs turned around and saw her, and looked horrified. "What's the matter, boys? You can pick on a little kid, so why can't you pick on a visitor?" The thugs' faces changed from horrified to annoyed, as they charged at Ark. Ark swiped her arm once, and all the thugs were cut in half instantly. The thugs were laying on the floor, quivering, stopped moving, and then died. "Pathetic," said Ark. Wyatt looked over and saw the bodies and grew cold with fear. Then he noticed another figure in the distance. It shouted, "Run away, boy!" Ark turned around and got blasted in the face with 2 shotgun shells. "Boom! Headshot!" shouted Cyrax and jumped into the air, reloading his gun. Wyatt screamed, "Get out of here, man! It'll destroy you!" "Taw, I don't think so, boy. Doesn't look so tough. Gotta say, not one of the witch's best minions," replied Cyrax. Ark didn't mind this small conversation and just walked towards Cyrax. Cyrax shot her in the face once more, but Ark's head only jerked back for a second and then drew back to its normal place. "I shot you twice! Damn, my aim is good today!" exclaimed Cyrax, apparently satisfied. Ark looked annoyed and angry. She pointed all of her arms towards Cyrax and spat acid from her mouth. Cyrax rolled sideways and acid just barely missed his leg. Cyrax shot at Ark's chest and missed. "Dang it! Thought I was on a roll today!" said Cyrax. Okay. So, still haven't got to the Pikmin part yet, but we're getting there. There's about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 chapters. So maybe in the next video we'll just get to the beginning of the Pikmin introduction. But until then, hang tight, folks.